With my channel, I mostly do FromSoft challenge runs, but I decided this time to spice it up a bit with a different Souls-like game, and the game and run I chose was Liza P, but I can only level Technique, aka Dex. With that said, let's get into the rules for this run. The first and most obvious rule, Technique only, which means I cannot level any other stat but Technique. For rule 2, no combat items. In Liza P, combat items are very strong and I just want to focus on the weapons. Rule number 3, no Azura Dragon Crescent Glaive for early game. I just find this weapon is too overpowered for early game. And lastly, I must beat every boss in the game, which includes the side bosses since they too have a boss bar. With the rules out of the way, we can get this fairy tale started. For the starting class, I of course went with the Path of Bastard since it has the highest technique in Vigor, which in this game, Vigor is Endurance, interestingly enough. With my class picked, I am given the Wintry Rapier, which I gleefully test out on the local puppet police. It's always a good day when I get to poke some enemies with my long sword. So, a quick rundown for those who have not played Liza P. The weapon blade and hilt each have their own Fable art, aka weapon arts. For the Wintry Rapier, its blade has the Storm Stab, which is a heavy-hitting multi-hit attack, whereas its handle has a guard parry, which when timed right, you parry the enemy followed by a devastating attack. With that quick lesson over with, let's get back to the run. After poking some puppets, I ran into the head honcho of the group, who for sure put up a good fight, but he couldn't handle a good old pimp slap to the face. After taking out the Popo, I made my way into Krot Central Station Plaza and looted the entire area of its Ergo fragments. A grand total of 8 fragments, a very generous amount for the starting area. Before popping the fragments, I used the Ergo I got from killing enemies to buy 2 Electric Blitz. With my shopping done, I picked me out a new outfit that is more fitting of a puppet of my stature. Now I'm looking like a fine young pimp. I then crush and snort some fragments to level up my technique to 16. Once done leveling, it's time to crash a festival and take on the Parade Master. Now, the last time I played Liza P was when it released, and I remember this boss being a lot harder than he was. Parade Master's attacks were so well telegraphed and made for easy parries, combined with the multi-hit charge attack of the Rapier and the almighty Pimp Slap, Parade Master really didn't stand a chance. Near the end of the fight, I was even able to get the Blade's Fable art off to weaken Parade Master just enough to just finish it with some good old pokes. With Parade Master out of commission, I collect some more fragments along the way and a hidden moonstone, which is the upgrade material in this game. After collecting some goods, I am then questioned by the hotel defense system whether I'm a puppet or human, and I of course lie because what pimp tells the truth? Once inside, I meet this beautiful woman, who definitely got my P organ pounding. For those of you who do not know, the P organ in this game is your heart. Don't blame me, blame the game.
Sure, blame the game.
Shut up, Scully. Come to find out, her name is Sophia, and I have declared to give up my Pippin ways if it means being with her. But she wants me to earn it first, so I have to go save the town or something like that. The things we do for love. So I make haste through the city, taking out the entire police force to find a lady in distress about her child. So, like the good neighborhood pimp that I am, I take on the task. But there's a coked up donkey man that wants to kill me for no good reason. Damn crackheads. The mad donkey wasn't hard at all. He is like any Dark Souls enemy where you can just walk behind him and get backstabs off. Pretty sure Dark Souls NPC invaders do a better job of preventing this, but with some well-timed thrusts from behind, the mad donkey goes down. With the crackhead defeated, I come to find my father in the carriage. And oh dear lord, is that what I'm gonna look like when I get older? Fuck me. After having a quarter-life crisis, I run away from my father and find the missing child, which turns out to be a puppet. Well, it's still better than being a crazy cat lady. I reunite the child and mother and reinforce her belief that the child is real. I then pimp walk back to the hotel to upgrade my weapon to +2. Snort some more fragments to level myself up to 25. I then proceed to pick up the Puppet Destroyer's amulet to take on the main Popo himself, Scrapped Watchman. Another boss that I had a really rough time with on my first playthrough. If I remember correctly, it was around like 10 to 12 deaths, but this time I just had no issues with him. Granted, he did slap me around for a bit, which made me think, oh, here we go again, to then recover from it and figure out his timing to get a super clean kill with the Storm Stab, which broke Watchman for me to get a visceral attack to then finish him off with some aggressive poking. After taking out the head of the police force, I head back over to the hotel to talk with my father about my P organ. I don't know what y'all want me to say, it's literally called the P organ. So, the P organ is the skill tree in this game where you use quartz to get access to new abilities and passive abilities. Starting off, I decided to go with the extra Fable slot with increasing my ergo gain and enhancing my Fable art damage. After tinkering with my P organ for a bit, like all men do, I break my way into Veniti Works to hop down into some poison to fight the Puppet of the Future. He honestly doesn't do anything special. He'll twirl a bit, maybe try and step on you, but just walking back and forth is enough to dodge everything. No clue why they gave him a boss bar, but there's 2 more of them later on, funny enough. Optional bosses aside, I came down here for the Booster Glaive Blade, which even though it looks like a strength weapon, it's actually a dex weapon. The Booster Glaive's Blade's Fable art is Storm Slash, which rushes you forward while doing multiple slashing attacks, but more importantly, its Hilt's Fable art Patient Slash allows the user to charge the attack to boost forward and hit the enemy with a strong attack. This Fable art right here is one of the reasons I got the weapon. The other reason is its heavy charge attack that also boosts you forward, dealing a heavy attack, which is great for keeping distance and closing gaps real quick. With having the glaive, I then upgraded to +2 and take on the next crackhead, Survivor. Well, isn't that ironic? Either way, he's the same as Donkey. I just walk around for backstabs and boost slap him a couple of times. Easy peasy. With Survivor no longer being a Survivor, I collect a few more upgrade materials to get my glaive to +3. Level my technique up to 38, tinker with my P organ for a bit, if you know what I mean, and take on the next actual boss, King's Flame Fluko. Now, this was a boss I did not struggle with on my first playthrough. With being able to just walk around the majority of Fluko's attacks, it just leads to easy hits. Plus, when he does his charge attack, you can just follow him to get even more hits in. I just made sure to bring some Electric Blitz to help speed up the fight and use some well-timed Fable Arts into parries into charge attacks to knock the big boy down, to officially dethrone him as king and become the king of pimps. With Yoko defeated, Vanini, the owner of the workshop, decided to move into the hotel to give me access to the elemental grinder, which means I can now equip a grinder which can buff my weapon depending on which grinder type I have on at the time. Once done chatting with my fellow pimp Vanini, I make my way through the child slave mines of Apple Incorporated and collect the big pipe wrench. For those who have played Liza P, know this weapon is a strength weapon, but with how weapon customization works in this game, the hilt determines the scaling. So I can take the big pipe wrench head, which can be paired with the slashing type hilt like the Booster Glaive handle, and now make a super hard hitting weapon that scales with technique. Essentially a strength weapon, but on a dex build. The reason I did this is because the pipe wrench head does a lot of damage and stagger damage, and combine that with the Booster Glaive's charge attack, you now make a slow weapon super fast and hits like a fucking truck. The only downside to this is it's heavy, so I have to sacrifice defense parts for better mobility. But we all know glass cannon builds are my bread and butter. Before leaving, I buy me a technique crank to bump my B scaling to an A scaling. Simply, more damage. With my new wrench in hand, I can start my new journey as a plumber for when I give up my pimpin' ways for Sophia. Along my pimpin' journey of becoming a plumber, I come across the Atoned who will only let a fellow stalker pass, which I could lie and say I'm one, but as the rules state, all bosses must go and she has a boss bar. So she's got to go. I just hit her over the head with my big wrench and knock her right out. Very realistic. After knocking out the Atone, I get a call from the church and apparently they need their pipes cleaned. A perfect assignment for my first day as a plumber. I see they have an infestation. Lovely. While looking for the pipes, I stumble across Aladaro, who allows you to trade in boss souls for weapons or amulets. The 2 amulets that I get from him that are important are Conquering Amulet, which allows you to deal more damage after parrying an attack, and Extreme Modification Amulet, which gives you more damage depending on how many Fable charges you have active. I'll be using these two for the majority of the boss fights. Once done chatting, I proceed to further upgrade my P organ, and use one of my Legion plugs to acquire a new left arm, the Falcon Eyes, which is a gun arm that has an A scaling and technique. Definitely struggling to let go of my pimpin' ways, but a gun arm never hurt anybody. I then proceed to upgrade my wrench booster to +5 because I will need all the power I can get to fix those pipes. With that done, I head back into the church to find the infestation itself, the fallen Archbishop Andreas. I can definitely see why the pipes got clogged now. Good thing I upgraded the booster. Andreas gave me a bit of trouble. With it being so long since I fought him, I didn't really know his pattern, and this time I was not able to pick it up in time. I did manage to get him to the second phase on my first try, but it was very short-lived. Sadly, the next two tries weren't any better and ended up dying on the first phase. It wasn't until the fourth phase where I got better at timing his attacks and punishing him properly with some charge attacks that I was able to make it to the second phase with most of my healing left. For the second phase, I knew I just needed to get to the back side to make the fight a lot easier. I will say this is where the amulets came in clutch, because with the extra damage from both of them plus buffing my weapon with fire, I did massive damage with my charge R2s, which ended up leading to a quick victory. First job as a plumber, and I think I did a mighty fine job. After completing my first job, I come across a mutated bear. I killed it with my big wrench. Remember, I'm not just any plumber, I'm a pimpin' plumber. Showboating aside, I make my way back to the hotel and trade in the Archbishop's Soul for the Trident of the Covenant. It's a very strong technique weapon that I would like to have for backup just in case I need it. Spoiler, I definitely needed it. Once back on my journey to become a value member of society, I come across another mutated bear, and oh dear god, it doesn't have a face. Luckily, only a few hits from my big wrench stuns it, leading to a very satisfying kill. Not going to lie, I really like the body exploding after the viscerals. It's always more fun when things explodes. After making mutated bear confetti, I make friends with some strangers who definitely won't backstab me later. Do a little bit of Assassin's Creed roleplaying with the mutated locals, use the locals ergo to level myself up to 50, upgrade my gun arm for bigger explosions, and start prepping for the next boss fight. So, what I forgot to mention for the last fight was that I used the Carrier's Amulet to help out with the weight. With the wrench, the gun arm, and the amulets, it weighs me down a lot. So much, in fact, that I can only have the liner equipped from the defense options even with the Carrier's Amulet equipped. With only having 7 in capacity and not being able to level it up, I have to sacrifice defense for offense. With that said, we can get on to the next boss fight, Black Rabbit Brotherhood, the gank boss fight of Liza P. I will say the first counter is not a horrible fight. I did end up dying twice, but that was just because I forgot to break the eldest brother's weapon at the beginning. The gimmick of this fight is as the elder brother's health goes down, a new family member joins in the fight, which will punish you if you do too much damage too quickly, since you could end up taking on all 4 members at once. So my strategy is to break his weapon so it does less damage and has a shorter reach. With his weapon broken, I then proceed to lower his health to summon each member to fight them one-on-one. Also, an amazing thing this game has is that when you run out of healing, you can actually earn one back by hitting enemies or doing parries. By far my favorite mechanic in this game. With the first 2 siblings down, I lower the elder brother's health just enough to not trigger the next sibling. I then proceed to parry his attacks until I stagger to get a visceral off. By doing this, I'm able to kill the elder brother without having to deal with the final sibling. And that's how you make this fight a lot less difficult. Once done dealing with the Brotherhood, I get a call that Rosa Isabel Street needs a plumber, and I always answer the call when the people need my help. And on that call, I came across demonic baby puppets. That's one way to get around child abuse in a video game. As a semi-former pimp, I had no issues getting rid of these puppet children. With the evil children puppets stuck with, I ran into a disgruntled opera singer who was having a Karen moment on me. So I smacked her from behind real good with my wrench. That always did the trick back in my pimpin' days. I then decided to go back to the hotel to do a little bit of leveling, upgrade my gun some more, and upgrade my wrench. With that, I'm back on the streets where I belong. Oh, lovely, a clown boss. I ended up dying 4 times to this fat, creepy bastard. I just really struggle with parrying his attacks, especially his spin attack. I always mess it up at the end, but like any good plumber that I am, I get the job done. I then proceed to further enhance my P organ so that I can take on the next real boss and the client who called me in for the job, the King of Puppets. Alright, this boss was interesting. On my very first go at him, I got him to his second phase, thinking this won't be too bad. Nope, I was wrong. I ended up dying 23 times. My major issue was the first phase. Once he got into his enraged state, he would do this room-wide attack, which for the life of me, I couldn't figure out how to deal with it. So I decided I was just going to skip that. I found if I just lower his health a bit and then parry him to the point of stagger, then buff my weapon into a visceral, followed by 2 charge R2s, I could skip his enraged state. Once I figured that out, it didn't take too many tries to win. For phase 2, I just found walking to the side while holding block for safety led to a lot of openings to get hits in, and I only needed 6 hits to be able to stagger him. After the visceral, I just shot him twice and let the explosions do all the work. I do have to say though, this was a super fun fight to problem solve. 10 out of 10 for sure. With the King of Puppets dead and me running out of clientele, I head back to the hotel to level my technique to 60, buy the Carcass Butcher's Amulet, and nab me a Puppet Ripper just in case. Like any blue-collared worker, I decided I needed a break from all the plumbing and went to visit the museum, but come to find out they're having plumbing issues as well. Wherever there's a pipe clogged or jammed, me and my big wrench will be there to clean those pipes. I'm not the hero they need, but the plumber they deserve. Upon exploring the museum, I found the culprit, and I can see why the pipes got clogged. That boy definitely got the protein shits. Trust me, I've been there. Champion Victor was a pretty tough boss. I'll be honest, I don't recall how this fight went on my first time, but he for sure put up a good challenge. With the big wrench and booster being on the slower side, it made getting hits in a bit harder. So after my 10th attempt, I decided I needed to try a new strategy, so I head back to the hotel. I decided to go with the Trident of the Covenant since it's a light weapon that can strike fast. Plus, we all know Poseidon was a pimp and he too used a trident. Since the trident is lighter, I could equip 1 extra piece of defense gear to help with damage mitigation. And finally, I further upgrade my P organ that I have been neglecting. With all that done, I was ready for my rematch with Champion Victor. Unfortunately, I didn't first try him after this prep. It took me a bit of time to adjust to the new weapon. My main focus for phase 1 was to just wait for his 3-swing combo to parry to follow up with a charge R2. Once staggered, I always try and get a single hit off for extra damage and then do the visceral. Doing this twice was usually enough to get him to his second phase. For his second phase, he gets a bit more chaotic with his charge attacks, but I found if I just kept my distance from him, I could just bait out his lunge attack and jump attack for easy parries with follow-up attacks to get the stagger off. Once knocked down, I buffed my weapon to speed up the last bit of the fight. It only took me 15 tries. Not the best, but not bad either, if I say so myself. Once taking out the guy who clogged the pipes, I find Simon Manus, who apparently thinks he's the big pimp around here, and we can't be having that. So I make my way to Barren Swamp to find a boat part that I need to fix up a ship to pimp slap Simon with my big pipe. And of course, it wouldn't be a Souls-like game without a swamp. I guess that's just part of the criteria of being a Souls game, but I haven't found any women showing off their bare feet yet, so not completely a true Souls-like. While in the swamp, I picked me up the Living Puppets Axe. With how the economy is these days, I am not making enough money to raise a future family as a plumber, so I switched my occupation to being a hitman. They definitely make the big bucks. Just like any hitman, I need an arsenal of weapons to take on my mission, so I pick up the City Long Spear so I could combine it with the Tyrant Murderer's Dagger, since I'll be doing a lot of murdering as a professional hitman. With my arsenal filled out, I killed the 3 mini-boss in the area. The 2 future puppets were literally the same as the first one, and the owl dude could throw knives, so really nothing interesting happened there. The only thing that gave me trouble in this area was the damn Pinocchio puppet. This son of a bitch killed me 21 times. That's more than any boss I have fought so far. With all my heart, fuck that dude. With all that taken care of, it was finally time to take on the boss of this area that was holding on to the part that I needed, the Green Monster of the Swamp. The Green Monster of the Swamp can go to hell. I hated this boss on my first playthrough, and I still hate him now. His first phase isn't horrible, it's his damn second phase that drives me nuts. I would think I would have his timing down to just get one-shotted. For this fight, I decided to go with the Tyrant Murdering City Long Spear. With it being a light weapon, I could have more defense, and the dagger has a 30% crit chance with a Fable Art of Grind that increases critical chance temporarily, combined with the City Pole Art Concentrate that increases attack damage temporarily for more damage. Sadly, it didn't stop me from dying 40 times. The real trick to winning this fight was in the second phase, just running away, baiting out his charge attack for an easy parry and punishing his jump attacks. Either way, this boss can go fuck itself in the nicest way possible. Now I have to manually head back to the hotel because apparently shit has hit the fan. As you can see, giant mutated zoo animals are roaming the streets. Along the way, I came across a spot that I remember that there was a guy here who I could talk to. Oh yeah, I need to talk to that chick at the exhibit first, that's right. Alrighty, she should be right here. Oh no. I did not know she would die if I didn't talk to her.
What?
Scully, calm down. I know I messed.
Shut your whore mouth.
Whore mouth?
How dare you let a woman die like this? She could have been part of my harem.
Harem?
You disgust me. Pooh. Good day, sir.
He'll be back, I think. Well, after that fiasco, I fought a weasel who wasn't much of a fight. So around this point, I ended up taking a break from the game since I got caught up with some Bloodborne runs I was working on at the time, and by the time I came back, it had been around a month. So you can imagine how rough it was trying to jump back into it, especially starting with this monstrosity of a mini-boss. With being out of practice for a month, you could say my parry timing was off a bit. Just a little bit. It ended up taking me 40 attempts to finally kill this damn thing. And the funny thing is, I beat it on my first try on my first playthrough. The ticket to this fight was DPSing the clone down as soon as it came out. Once I finally took out the clone, that sealed the deal for the fight. Either way, fuck this dude, respectfully. After realizing my mistake from taking a break, I immediately have to take on Parade Master. But he's infected this time. So for this fight, I went in with the Murdering Spear with the Extreme Modification Amulet with the Arm of God amulet this time. You get this from trading in Champion Victor's Fragment. Since the spear is a fast-hitting weapon, I found keeping pressure was easy to keep the Arm of God buff going. With that said, even with a good build, if the player isn't skilled enough to use it, they will die. Roughly 15 times from what I heard, but that's just a guess. A very, very well-educated guess. Once I got back to the hotel, I found it in dismay and my pimpin' wife was very mad and she personally hired me herself to take care of the problem, so I of course made haste. Right before taking off though, I upgrade the old organ, level my technique up to 74, and upgrade my arsenal to full power. After finishing that prep, apparently the Rabbit Hood, or whatever they are called, wanted a rematch. And I will say this version of them is definitely more annoying than the first. With this go around, you have to fight all three at the same time. Now, they will usually let you 1v1 them, but if you get too close to any of the others, they'll jump you. And it can get very, very annoying with all three aggroing you. I have to say, I did not enjoy this fight. The way I was able to beat them was by making sure the Spear brother attacked first, since he's the easiest to get backstabs off, which led to a quick kill. From here, I get the other two siblings down to half health, and then take out whichever one is aggroing me at the time. With only one left, they aren't much of a fight. Once all the minor siblings are defeated, the elder brother pops up. He's really easy to deal with this go around. I just stay back and let him whiff for easy hits. It ended up only taking me 12 tries. Not too bad if I say so myself. After dealing with the Rabbit Hood again, I tinker a bit more with the P-Organ just to help myself out, and I end up finding Alidoro, who apparently was pretending to be a pimp, and that's a massive crime in the pimp community, so I had to take him out. With Alidoro out of the picture, I take over a submarine and perfectly park it in front of Simon's house. I then kick down the door to find the doorman not being so friendly, so I went hitman, former plumber, former pimp on his ass. I then proceed to make my way through Simon's home to find an old friend who decided to backstab me. I did not see this one coming. He also insults me by using a spear as well. Unfortunately for him, my spear is a murdering spear while his spear is just a normal spear, so I win by default. After taking out my former friend, I finally make it halfway to the top. My lord, this place is huge. I don't even think Snoop, our lord and savior, has this big of a crib. Then all of a sudden, Simon's simp comes out of the woodworks to defend him. Wax Asia could do so much better. Sadly, she heard that comment and proceeded to abuse me for the next 3 hours. This fight was hard. As stated, it took me 3 hours of trying to beat her. I came close multiple times to just end up getting fucked on a winning attempt an hour in to find out the hard way when you stagger her in the second phase, she has a massive AoE. A very dick move by the developers. Very dickish. It ended up taking me learning all of her moves in the first phase to the point of being able to parry her crazy sword combo to finally have a consistent chance of making it to the second phase to just die 2 seconds later. It took a lot of trial and error to figure out the second phase, but I'm happy to say I did figure it out. So, once making it to the second phase, I would walk over to this stack of rocks right here, so when I parry all of her projectile attacks, they would push me just far back enough that when I parry her Godspeed attack, I would be close enough to do a charge R2 to close the gap to then unload a full Fable Art attack from the Trident with acid to do a shit ton of damage. From here, I made sure to keep my distance and find a safe time to get 2 gunshots off, which will then put her into a guaranteed stagger state. From here, I get the stagger off and run for dear life. Once she does her AoE, I get an extra hit off before the visceral to finally kill her. It only took dying 117 times to figure all this out. Yay, hard-headedness. After that frustrating fight, I then have the horror of finding this. Come to find out, all this time I was talking to an illusion all along. Would this be considered the first ever catfish? I don't know, but I would like to think so. Seeing Sophia in this state, I did what any good hitman, plumber, pimp would do. I set her free. And in doing so, my hair turned back to its original color. It's time to take my revenge on Simon, but first, let me slap the shit out of this fox real quick to make myself feel a little bit better. From there, I touch my P organ for the last time and level my technique up to 100, as around this point I was level 88 and figured why not just finish it off. With all that done, it's time for Simon. Yeah, Simon was a pain in the ass. Not his first phase, no. His damn second phase, where he likes to spam his range attacks while charging your ass, and at half health, he summons a giant fucking hand that likes to tickle your butthole. Yeah, I said it. To be honest, I have no clue how I won this fight. I never could figure out his parry timings. The only thing I did figure out was some decent positioning to dodge some attacks, and heavily relied on my gun arm and acid damage to lower his health. I guess with this being my 69th attempt, the pimp gods were just looking over me to allow me to finally win. Now, it's time for me to unleash my true form on the man who caused me all this pain. Fun fact, this was the first time I ever used 2 Dragon Sword, and I literally went through all of this for that small bit right there. I never said I was smart, but I will say I'm hard-headed. I know this was different than me doing my normal FromSoft challenges, but it was a nice change of pace. And if you'd like to see more Liza P challenges, let me know down below in the comments. With that said, I would like to thank my channel supporters. If you too would like to support the channel or have your name in the video, you can click the Patreon link in the description or click the YouTube join button. I also from time to time stream my runs, so you can catch me streaming on YouTube or over on Twitch at Ardain Gaming. I want to thank you all for watching, and until next time, take care.